With me in Esther chapter 5. Esther chapter 5, and we're going to begin in verse 9. Then went Haman forth that day joyful with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. When it says stood not up nor moved for him, it makes you give you the thought of it's a tight, narrow space, and Mordecai wasn't going to move and made Haman move. He was, when you stand on a fundamental truth, it's going to make people squirm like worms, and they're going to have to move around the truth. That is right. That he stood up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh, his wife. So now, so he's all happy because he's been invited to go hang out with the king and queen. I'm going to go to a banquet. Yippee-yay, all excited, right? Mordecai won't move, won't stand up. He gets mad about it. He goes home, and what's he do? He calls his friends and his wife. And verse 11, and Haman told them of the glory of his riches, which means nothing, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and the servants of the king. All right, so let's talk about money real quick. We'll pick this back up later. But I want to ask you this question. Would you like to have a couple of $1 million? Don't sit here and say, no, I don't want no. Come. Who would like to have a couple of $1 million? That's right, my man. Okay, so let's say this. What if I said to you, that's a sorry example. What if I said to you, this represents some of your life? Hello, I'm over here. Hello? This represents some of your life. But for you to have the $1 million, you're going to have to give up some time off of your life. Now who wants $1 million? 2? 3 million? So what you're saying is there's nothing that you would trade for life. Verse 11, and Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and the servants of the king. And the New Testament talks about loving the world, the things of the world, right? It's worthless. Hey, you know what? Hey, let me tell you something. It's not, I hear this said all the time. Well, money's the root of all evil. No, it's not. The love of money is the root of all evil, right? Okay, so behind every dollar bill is a bad decision usually. So when you look at the love of money is the root of all evil, okay, yeah. Not money's the root of all evil. There's nothing wrong with a person being filthy rich and a Christian as long as they keep it in proper biblical perspective, right? A Christian that is wealthy is going to use the money toward the things of God more than a casino is. Hello? So he does all this and watch. And then he says, hey, verse 12, and Haman moreover, yea, Esther, the queen did let no man come in with the king into the banquet that she had prepared for myself. And tomorrow I'm invited also with the king. Now, if you were invited to the White House previously, we won't discuss that. But if you were currently invited to the White House, you might like that. Oh, well, let's go retrospect. As long as you didn't have to hang out with Nancy, I would love to be around Ronald Reagan. Yeah, I was around him, but I never talked to him. Isn't that amazing? And yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. He is whining. He is not acting like a man. Watch what happens. Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made. Could you hear the devil behind this? Let a gallows be made 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon, and then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. Never think that lost people act normal. They don't. Listen, you can never expect reasonable or normal behavior out of lost or carnal people. You can't. They told him, build a gallows and murder Mordecai because he won't move. He won't bow down to you, Haman. Go to the king, set up his homicide, and then go eat and banquet thyself. Have a great time. The world could plan your murder and sit down and eat a T-bone steak and not think a thing about it. I've heard Christians say, well, I never thought that people could be so evil. Oh, well, you might want to do more thinking because they are. So, number one, yeah, just listen. This is an ending review. Haman had an unjustified dislike and hatred which led to the decree for the king to kill numbers of Jews. Haman was promoted to a high position, yet he thought more highly of himself than he ought. The Bible said in Romans chapter 12, you can listen, for I say through the grace given unto me, that every man that is among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly according as God hath dealt every man the measure of faith. We are to think soberly. We are to think righteously. We are to consider consequences of decisions. Would you, as an adult in this room, identify that it is very easy to mess your life up as a young person? It don't matter what your age, but I'm asking you to help testify to these young people with a nice hearty amen. You can totally mess your life up with one bad decision. And God's people say, that's all it takes, one. He had all his friends. The king had all his wise men. You have all, and his wife. Build a gallows, hang him on there tomorrow. Go eat your banquet, have a good time. Man, what a wicked bunch of people. And Haman's friends influenced him to plan for a murder and built the gallows and hang him there. But what happened was at this banquet, Esther already knew, man. And Esther exposed the genocidal plot of Haman, and the king responded accordingly. You know what he did? Hey, Haman built that gallows. He built it real high. They say it's as much as 75 feet high. But if you look at Esther chapter 7, and look there, Esther chapter 7, Haman does some stuff. You can read the story on your own. But what happened was Esther says, this wicked Haman, and that genius goes and falls on the queen like, oh, mercy. Right, yeah, mercy Magoo yourself. Esther chapter 7, verse 9, notice what happened. And Harbonah, Esther chapter 7, verse 9, and Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold, also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon. And that was not a nice way to be hung. You do research on how they were hung. You know what all this influence happened in Haman's life? What led to his death? The king said, hang Haman, hang him. You see, our original text verse was, be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he what? And what we see in the story of Haman, briefly as we've looked at it, is irrational thinking, irate behavior listen to this. Irrational thinking and irate behavior is easy prey for wrong influence. Did you get that? When you're angry, when you're drinking, when you make it a practice of partying, and you display irrational thinking, is it rational to set up the murder of somebody and to go? No, that's not rational. Is it reasonable to have irate behavior? You know, one thing that I've learned from people in my life, like my dad, it doesn't matter what hits him, it's a calm response. It's a calm response. Haman was over emotional. He has a stature, he has position, and then he covered his head because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him and went home and sulked to his friends and his wife. Now here's where we're going. All this influence, and this is where I want to talk to the young people briefly. You listen, please. In the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to have massive decisions that you're going to make. And the massive decisions doesn't have to deal with you, somebody not bowing down to you. It doesn't have to deal with you having a high position, though you may have a high position, and I think that's a great thing. It doesn't have, do I really think that you're going to stand around and plot somebody's homicide, murder? No, I don't. But you're going to face influence, and sometimes from Christian circles, in a wrong way that's going to damage your life. And if you let influence impact you in a wrong way, you're going to make tragic decisions. I will state this, and I will state this plainly. If you lose your innocence, you cannot get it back. Once it's lost, it is gone. And as a young person, the devil constantly tempts you. But he never tells you the end result of the problem, does he? Does he? No, he doesn't. Whether it's alcohol, smoking, drug use, immorality, and many more other vices that people have, reasons for going to them, people, listen, alcohol is a depressant. What does alcohol do to you? It makes you depressed. So we run to alcohol to help us because we are depressed, to become more depressed. It destroys your muscle, it destroys your brain, it shrinks your brain, on and on. So reasons for going to drugs, alcohol, immorality, any of that thing, how does a person fall under the influence or under the power of a vice? I would submit to you that my observation as how a person falls under the influence of a vice, which we could mention many, whether it's alcohol or vaping, which is smoking. You Bud Light, Well, you got vaping. That's smoking light. The alternative way, that to me, vaping is the alternative way to destroy the human body. I don't know if you ever seen these guys walk around smoking cigarettes, blowing the stuff out the window. I'm thinking, if you want to smoke, why don't you just leave the window up? Just get it all you can get, man. Just leave the window up and drive in fog. You ever seen the amount of smoke that comes out of somebody's body when they're vaping? It looks like a cumulus cloud just came up in the sky. It just roll it. Keep the window up. Our focus today is smoking. This is a prop. So we don't get sued, I put duct tape on the name Boro. So you say, oh, how dare you use that? Listen, I'm going somewhere with this. Can see if it's set up. So can the children, can you see that? Can you see it? I don't know what in the world makes a person think it's okay to, number one, buy that, number one, ingest it. I was sitting in a doctor's office, met a guy that I've talked to twice now. Our conversation gets over to the medical field, and he makes this statement. He said, a friend of mine is a surgeon. He said, when he operates on smokers, it's one of the most disgusting things I've ever experienced. Have you ever gutted a deer? They all shake their head in silence. Have you ever gutted a squirrel? And you did it right. You didn't puncture any body cavity or not. You got the skin off. They all do what? It all stinks. See, you don't think about this. So the world tries to influence you, and this is what he said. The surgeon told him that when they operate on a smoker, quote, and cut the chest cavity open, the odor of smoke is so strong that it fills the room, and it is absolutely disgusting. But see, we've butchered animals, we cut it open, it smells horrible. But the disgusting odor of cigarette smoke with it, hey, let me tell you something. That to me is a stronger temptation for young people in the future because you're not drinking alcohol. You've heard preaching about alcohol all the time. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's reason on this. I sat there in that conversation, and this is what I thought. I've got to tell young people. That is such an easy thing to get involved in, but the damaging effects is incredible. You would not, listen, you honestly did not answer. No, well, you answered by not answering. No, I'm not willing to trade any of my life for $1 million or $2 million. But you trade it for $10. And you paid the $10. How crazy is that? You see, Haman lost his life because of bad decisions and following wrong influence. Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. So in the future, you make the decision to smoke. You want to talk about money? Now, before I lose you, here we go. The average cost of smoking per year can vary based on the type of cigarettes and where you live and how much you smoke, and here's an estimate. The average cost of a pack of cigarettes is between $6 and $10, and it could be more expensive than in certain states. The average number of cigarettes in a pack is normally 20. The cigarette smoke per day, if you smoke a pack per day, that's 20 cigarettes. So the cost of a pack per day is between $6 and $10. So the annual cost, if you smoke 365 days, the low estimate is that you're spending $2,190 to smoke something into nothingness. The high estimate is $10 per pack, which is $3,650 per year. The cost could be lower if you smoke less or smoke none. That's my suggestion. Than a pack a day or in higher places where cigarettes are more expensive due to taxes. The life loss in the principles of sowing and reaping is the following. Hey, you listening? Do you like you? Well, of course you do. No man ever yet hated his own flesh, right? Do you like, let me ask it this way. Do you like living? Thank you. So you like living. Is there anything contained in a cardboard box that's worth you giving up some of it? How much? I have probably made more than 2 people mad in my life because I have walked by them and I said, "Hey, you know what that is right there, right?" No. No, I don't. That's suicide on the installment plan, boss. That's what I tell them. Hey, suicide on the installment plan. Hey, I want to ask a young person up here, how much life do you think you lose with one cigarette? 11 minutes. Suicide on the installment plan, one punk told me. I said, yeah, man. At the time, it was the estimated 7 minutes. I said, it's 7 minutes every time you smoke a stupid cigarette. What the devil does, he makes it all pretty, man. You know, back in the 70s, he had the Marlboro Man. Now, I admire anybody wear a cowboy hat, right? Okay, you wear a cowboy hat, that you have great admiration for me. In Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas, they cut their boots, so I don't recommend that. And they stick one part of their boot in their boot, and the other part hangs down. I was at a hotel one time in Fairmont picking somebody up, and the door comes open on the elevator. And I looked at a dude, and I said, Texas or Louisiana? He said, Texas. How'd you know? I said, your boots. What you do identifies with you. Can you bear with me a second? We're going somewhere. By the way, did you know that you can smell a cigarette like I don't know how far off? It's a long way. You ever been walking somewhere? I know. You ever been walking somewhere and somebody go, man, I smell a cigarette, right? What that does is you need to understand when you're tempted to, it makes you, I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm just being straight. What it does, listen. What it does, it announces you're coming before you're there. And then you stink up the whole room where you are, and when you leave it. And non-smokers are going, good, great, can't you smell yourself? No, you can't. Why? Because you shrunk your olfactory pads or something, and you definitely have already shrunk your brain. It alters your brain for the rest of your life. Do you know they say that when people get involved in drinking alcohol, this is not going to make it on YouTube, is it? When people are drinking alcohol, they shrink their brain, and you know what a neuroscientist said? You cannot repair it, and you cannot rebuild it. He said it, I didn't say it. So you lose, hey, look. If you're below 10 years old, raise your hand. Okay, you're 10. 6 years ago, you were what? Hello? 4. Are you willing to give up the past 6 years that you lived for something in a box like this? If as an adult you wouldn't take $1 million if you had to give up some life, then why would you do it here? What? Is the devil not got us fooled like I don't know what? I don't even know how to use the word. The devil had you so fooled, we're dumb enough to pay him to get this, to kill us. Do you know that the average death rate from smokers is 6.5 to 11 years off your life? You're going to die 6.5 to 11 years sooner. Well, I used to be a smoker. Well, I'm glad it's used to be. But you still lost something you ain't getting back. We calculated that if a man smokes the average number of cigarettes per year, which is 5,772 times 11, from the median starting age of 17 until his death of 71, he will have consumed 311,688 cigarettes in his lifetime. If we assume that each cigarette makes the same contribution to his death, each cigarette cost him on average 11 minutes of his life. 6.5 years is 2,374 days, 56,976 hours, 3,418,560 minutes, 5,772 cigarettes per year for 54 years. That is 300,688 cigarettes, 11 minutes per cigarette. and your life is cut short because of your own susceptibility to satanic attacks that you thought, oh, it's okay. If I helped one person in this room, why would you do that to your family? Ahasuerus made some bad decisions because of alcohol, but Mordecai was walking outside the house of the women. He wanted to see how Esther was, when he wanted to know what's going to come of her. If you smoke cigarettes and you drink alcohol, it will make you a weird, strange, unreasonable person, and it will take your life. Do not do it. Amen. Do not be vaping. It's as bad as anything else. Do not do it. It's going to cost you. Every head bowed, every eye closed.